Welcome everybody to the Tiger Global Case Competition, TGCC 2021, Future of Mobility. TGCC is the world's largest global virtual case competition for high school students. It's brought to you by our principal partner, Tiger Global Management, official sponsor, PwC, global partner, M&G Investments, and is powered by Crimson Education. This is the perfect opportunity for 13 to 18-year-olds to step into the shoes of a consultant or a CEO to solve a real business challenge. It's 100% remote, so you can work from anywhere, and you get to attend the best-in-class workshops to build your skills, to analyze a business case, and present your amazing solutions to our panel of live judges. You guys can work in teams of 2 to 4 to crack the case. Currently, we have nearly 2,100 registrations from over 50 countries. It's about 670 teams in total. The registrations close on Tuesday, August 3rd, 11:59 p.m. New York time. My name is Ibrahim, and I will be your global host for today's webinar, which is the first global webinar of TGCC 2021. We have an exceptional panel of accomplished students who are global competition champions and innovators. A couple of notes before we get started. We will not be using the chat function, so please do not ask any questions in the chat box. We will instead be using the Q&A box, which is, if you look closely, right next to the chat box. And you can ask any questions about TGCC or about the webinar or any questions to the panelist. We will have a live Q&A at the end. So if you have any questions for the panelists, feel free to pop them there. And also, please have a quick look in the current question before you put in yours, because usually people have similar questions. So if the question you want to ask is already there, please just upvote the question so we can answer them easily. While I introduce our panelists today, we will be dropping a few polls to learn a little about who's joining us today, so please answer them so we can know who is with us today. The polls are: what region are you located in, what year in school are you in, and have you registered for TGCC 2021? Now on to our first panelist. I would like to introduce to you Siddhant. Sid, who goes Sid by short, is joining us from Dubai, same as me, where it is currently midday. Siddhant was part of TGCC 2020 last year. He was part of the first place global winning team, so he's basically TGCC royalty. For TGCC 2020, there were more than 2,500 competitors over 60 countries. Sid is 16 years old and he attends Dubai International Academy, which is a very prestigious school here in Dubai, and his interests include business, economics, and finance. We wish we could spend the entire webinar talking about his accomplishments, but other than being one of the winners of TGCC 2020, he was also the debate showcase winner and first place overall at World Scholar Cup in 2019. The World Scholar Cup is a massive international academic program with more than 15,000 participants every year from more than 65 countries. Sid is also the founder of Compridge, which is an international platform that connects students with competitions and events. And they've been visited thousands of times every single day, and they're affiliated with 80 plus events and competitions. Next, it's my pleasure to introduce Ece. She is tuning in from Turkey, where it is currently 11 a.m. Good morning, Ece.
Morning.
She is the Harvard Crimson Global Essay Competition 2021 Creative Essay Category First Place winner. In 2021, the Global Essay Comp had over 2,600 registrants from nearly 90 countries. She just graduated from Cardiff Sixth Form College and will be attending the prestigious Columbia University this fall, studying economics. She's passionate about writing and giving back to the communities she's involved in, hence why she's here today. For our final panelist, we will travel all the way to the other side of the world, where we will meet John Hopcroft. John is tuning in from New Zealand, where it would be just past 8 p.m. Good evening, John.
Hello, everyone.
John is a prefect and board of trustees representative at Palmerston North Boys High School, New Zealand, and his region's youth representative. John has been a TEDx speaker at TEDx Youth, and he is also passionate about global competitions, so much so that he founded one himself. The Cosmos Championship that John founded is a free global debate platform with more than 5,000 pre-registrations from nearly 108 countries. And John has been always passionate about, taking advantage of the internet and using global platforms to break out of your local bubble and experience the perspectives that the world has to offer. Now we will just go over the poll results in a quick moment before we get into the webinar. All right. All right, so we've got 2% from North America, 8% from Central and South America, 59%, which is the majority, from Southeast and Southeast Asia. We've got 21% from Europe, Middle East, Africa, Russia, Central Asia, and we've got about 10% from Australia and New Zealand. Interesting. Next, we've got 1% from year 7, 3% from year 8, 14% from year 9, 22% from year 10, and the majority, which is 30% from year 11, 25% from year 12, and 3% from year 13. We've also got 2% that have already graduated, and we have got no professors and no parents. Have you registered for TGCC 2021? We've got 93% who have, and we have got 1% who haven't, and we've got 6% that are planning to. Amazing. Cool. Let's move on to the webinar. My first question, it'll go to John. Why do you think high school students should even care about global competitions? Why do you think they should enter?
Sure. Well, that's a pretty interesting question because it really surrounds scale of what you're looking at when you're dealing with a global competition. Because there's a couple really cool elements when you grow to or look at the size of something as international, as massive as a global competition. And you can really break it down into a couple areas. The first thing you're looking at is pretty obvious, and it's that international element of global competitions. Now, when you're looking at your local circuit or as you grow to state or even national, you don't really get that much of an opportunity to hop outside of your backyard. But as you do look at a global scale, you get this really cool chance to engage with the perspectives of the world and see how you rank and how well you do when looking at an international audience. And that's something which is pretty difficult to do on a day-to-day basis. The other thing I really like about, competitions which are global is that they tend to be at this massive scale, and with that, there's massive amount of resources available. Once again, looking at any other competition, it's unlikely that you'd see any of the resources, any of the development, or any of, the professionalism you would see when dealing with a global competition or platform.
I would definitely agree with that, considering we've also got many amazing live workshops from experienced professionals at TGCC itself. My next question would be, should students only enter competitions or global competitions if they think they will win, and why? Anyone can answer.
I can go first. So no, definitely not, because, well, first of all, I feel like people are bad judges of how well they will do in a competition. For example, I entered competitions where I thought I was going, I had it in the bag that I was going to win, and I didn't. But then the Harvard essay competition that I won, I was kind of saying oh, it would be nice if I get placed and stuff, and I ended up winning it. So it's you don't ever know how well you're going to do. And also, as cheesy as it sounds, truly every competition that you don't win, it's actually a learning curve. And at the end of the day, if you don't practice your skills, how are you going to get better at them? And how are you going to progress and actually win some stuff? Because I'm not going to lie, overnight success is a myth. It doesn't really happen unless you hone in your skills. And what better way to do that than entering like a global competition and kind of like honing in writing skills, presentation skills, you know, kind of like social skills as well, because you get to work with so many like different people. So definitely not, don't think about it as like, oh, I have a chance of winning this. No, just enter. You never know what will happen. So yeah, definitely not.
Definitely agree with that. As they say, overnight success is a culmination of years of experience and hard work. Anyone else want to add in something?
Yeah, I mean, I think Eche brought up a very important point about, not winning or like not getting as good as you can kind of gives you a lot of feedback that you can implement. I think the TGCC was very good with giving feedback that we could use, from every stage, from the regional to the global finals. At every step of the way, we had feedback, and they are really good at like publishing all these successful cases or successful analyses. And kind of the structure of how we did it is we looked at the last year's winning presentation, and you learn so much by seeing what other people have done, other successful people have done. And even if you don't make it, you still get to expose yourself to the different types of people that are there, different ideas and different ways in which people think and go through a problem. And I think that's very important. So even if you don't win, you just walk away with so much experience, so much depth in your knowledge and the way you approach a problem, that I think even if you know you're going to lose, it's just so important that you just try.
Yeah, and I can really only support the points which have been made here. What needs to be recognized is that the majority of people don't win the competitions they enter, which isn't a surprise to anyone, but it also means that these competitions have been designed to be enjoyable for everyone involved, not just the winners. Sure, it's pretty awesome if you end up winning some massive competition, but the thing is that the experience has been made to be enjoyable for everyone, the 1,000 or 2,000 or however many people who didn't get that chance to win. It's been designed to still be a good time and for you to come out to end up with an experience which does develop you and you get something positive out of it.
I would definitely agree with that. Going off of actually all of you guys' points, how do you think entering these competitions and even winning them has helped you grow as a person?
So I think with any sort of competition, you first get to benchmark yourselves across people all over the world. I think that's a very good sort of growth moment, because when you look at your own achievements within your own sort of safety bubble of your school, your friend group, it's really easy to get complacent. It's very easy to say, oh yeah, I'm the best, no need to work hard anymore. But with a lot of competitions like the TGCC, you see just thousands of people who are much better than you. So one kind of growth point, at least for me, what it was when I was entering the competition, is that shift from someone who is maybe has a bit too much ego for his own good to someone that's kind of realized and been humbled a little bit. um, you know and I think it's so important. Humility is so important, because if you think you know everything, you're not open to learning the things you don't know. It kind of tosses this back to the Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld, who talked about knowing what you don't know is the most important thing that anyone can, any skill that anyone can get is not know, is knowing what they don't know. And that's something that was a huge kind of moment of growth for me, to realize, to know what I don't know and to figure out how to improve on that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
definitely agree with that.
yeah, and just to like, I mean, obviously I agree with everything that Sid said. For me as well, like there was obviously that, but then also like it kind of makes you realize your interests as well. Like you kind of realize that, oh, I actually really like this. Like for example, with the writing competition, perhaps it's a case for a lot of you with the Tiger case competition as well. It's like, it's not something that is taught in schools. Like you don't go and like do case competitions. You don't do like creative writing tasks in school. It's not in the syllabus most places. So it's like, for me, writing has always been a passion, but I never got around to doing it because I was like, well, I have so much like academic stuff going on. I have this, I have that. And then like there were always ideas in my head about stories I wanted to write, or like stuff I wanted to do, but then I never got the chance to do it. And then if you have a global competition as an excuse, well, I mean, first of all, it can be like, oh no, it's something productive, I'm not just sitting around and doing something. So it gives you the chance to like do something you like. And if you actually really like the competition setting, like for me, I loved the whole writing process as well. And I realized that, yeah, maybe I want to keep doing this in my life. I want to keep writing and stuff. So humility and kind of like self-reflection comes along with like global competitions that I think are very like important to everyone.
Yeah, I think, you picked out something very important there, Eche, that I think it didn't really come to my mind when I was thinking about it, is that you realize what you're into, you realize what you like. For the longest time, I thought I was going to be an investment banker who's going to just bring home a bag of cash every day. But, sitting in front of, those 48 hours in the global round, I have terrible focus. I'm going to be honest with everyone here. I have terrible focus. If I sit at something for more than 45 minutes, I will open up my phone and like play like Clash of Clans or something like that. But sitting there for like 48 hours straight with maybe like 2 or 3 hours to sleep at night, it really made me realize that those 48 hours went super quickly. And that's when you realize that, okay, this is something that's meant for me. This is something that I want to focus in on. And then after the competition, and after you realize that that's what you want to do, you really get to focus in on that. You grow so much more on that because you know exactly what you're going to do. And I think that is something that was really important, something I completely missed. So thank you, Eji, for pointing that out.
Definitely agree with that. Even with personal experience, when I sort of joined my first national, it wasn't as cool as you guys global competition, but when I joined my first national competition, I never thought I was going to win. And definitely the experience of just going through those workshops, going through the procedure of, sort of enacting the whole experience, it really made me find my true passion. And you know you get to win cool prizes if you win, obviously, but definitely the experience is very valuable. um Speaking of like actually winning, right, what do you think that helped you in sort of differentiating yourself or standing out from the other participants?
I think for the TGCC, it was the thing with the case competition is that it's very important, and I'm sure it's the same for the essay competition. It's like 10% is what you say, 90% is how you say it and how you bring it forward. So I think with, if you look at differentiating factors, I mean, this is based on what I saw on the global rounds and the live stream that was there. A lot of people had subject specific knowledge that was far superior than ours. Advanced whack calculations from some NYU Stern professor. I don't know, right? But the thing you have to realize is that, okay, they spent 6 minutes of their 10 focusing on their finances, but only 4 minutes focusing on what actually is important. I through the TGCC, I got to talk to a gentleman named Danish Sange. He is a PwC manager here in the UAE branch, and he said, when PwC recruits people, they look at the soft skills. They look at the way you say things, the way you bring them forward. Even if you have zero technical know-how, they'll still bring you in because technical knowledge can be taught. Finance can be taught. Critical thinking, the way you explain things, the way you structure a slide, how aesthetic the slide is, those things can be taught. And that is what you have to kind of develop through experience and through understanding only. And I think that is something, the way we were succinct with our presentation, those little, side jokes that are somehow still formal that we put in our presentation, those are really what builds up the atmosphere where you can present an effective, slot of recommendations. And I think that is something that really helped our team kind of set ourselves apart from everyone else that was there.
I think I really agree with that. Even last year we had a lot of like questions. Do I need to have business knowledge? Do I need to have economics knowledge to participate? And we interviewed a McKinsey consultant, and she was a politics graduate, right? And that's nothing to do with economics or business, but she got an offer from McKinsey. It's because of those soft skills, because of that, interpersonal skills that allowed her to stand out. I'm sure there are many experts in business that didn't get like offers from McKinsey or PwC. It's because they don't have those skills, right? So definitely developing those skills is a very good way to stand out. Ajay, you want to say something?
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's one thing that, I mean, obviously I agree with like everything Sid's saying, but kind of like on that note, I guess it's kind of keeping in mind that your like first idea is not going to be your best idea. I've realized this kind of like the hard way. Like, you'll get an idea, oh my God, this is so good. But actually, like if you brainstorm, my third or fourth idea for the like writing competition is what I went with, not my first one. And it's kind of like, you have to be self-critical in these like competitions. You have to kind of like get out of your head and be like, no, I'm not like the best. My first idea is not, I'm not like, Steve Jobs. And like, and not every idea I spurt out is like the best thing ever. So you kind of like brainstorming and everything, you kind of get to self-reflect and be critical and be like, okay, like actually this may not be that original and stuff. So definitely kind of, taking it back and being like, okay, what is like the idea that I want to go with, and what's like going to be the strongest idea that kind of like carries through to my presentation, to my essay, to my, like other stuff that you do in global competitions.
I think that that's definitely a good point, because you mentioned Steve Jobs, and even Steve Jobs, or some of the most successful entrepreneurs, even their first ideas were not the best. That's not what actually made them succeed. It's really trying those 100 different ideas and finding that one in a million idea that not other people don't think of, or other people that just quit after their first idea. So I think that's definitely a good skill to acquire. Actually, this is specifically for you, as you just got accepted to Columbia University. How do you think joining these competitions, especially global competitions, has helped you during your university application process, and even today, like during while you would go attend Columbia? How would it help you sort of understand like yourself better?
So during the college, I'll start with the application process. During the application process, I kind of had like two global competition. Well, one of them was national, actually. So one global competition and then one like national competition. First of all, they just look great on the application form. I'm not gonna lie, like, those are the main things that universities kind of looked towards. Like, you can't really skip through those. They like jump at you. So first of all, they look great in the applications. You don't even have to win like first place or anything. If you get placed, highly commended, one of them, like it still looks good because you have achieved something out of like thousands of people. You don't always have to be first place in everything, and you will not be first place in everything. Like in my application form, I had entered another essay competition and I was highly commended. I was not first place, but that still clearly did something to show like that, I have done stuff and I'm kind of good at this area. So first of all, yeah, they look great. And also like the application process for US universities, they're very like self-reflective, and you have to show personality and you have to show who you are. There's lots of essay questions. First of all, there's like a huge one, like personal statement type of essay that you have to do. And then there's supplements. So you have to write a lot. And if you win competitions like this, you have stuff to write about. You have to be interesting and you want to like show that you're interesting. Everybody is. So if you like talk about your experiences, that would be a great way to kind of like both highlight your skills, but also show like what you've learned about your like other like soft skills. Like, I'm good at communicating and stuff like that. In terms of like now, so for the Harvard Crimson one, I know like the TGC like has amazing prizes as well. Like you get like an internship. The Harvard Crimson one had an internship as well, and I'm still kind of an intern there. Basically, it involves like me working at the Harvard Crimson like newspaper. So it's like, it changed my whole look towards what I want to do in college, because I was not really aware of the college newspaper scene before. I like economics. I want to do economics. So I wasn't really looking at like the clubs and like the college newspapers and stuff. But, working in one as an intern, it showed me that, first of all, they have a business board, which is okay. Like if I'm into economics, I can do something there. And also like, it showed me that, it like the whole college newspaper environment is so suitable for me. Like I love the whole social aspect. I love the business board. I love how like I can write articles still, but they can be related to economics and stuff, and like marketing and stuff. So it showed me that yes, this is something I want to do in college. When I like go to university in the fall, I want to join like Columbia's newspaper now. So it kind of like showed me how I will continue developing and how I'll use my time in college more wisely. Because when you enter university, I'm sure lots of the attendees here will, even if you don't, like you're going to be open to so many new opportunities, so many new clubs, and if you know what you are really interested in early on, that's going to save you a lot of time, and you can go in and like do the things you love the most. So definitely like in terms of the prizes, I think the internships are incredible. And it's better than the prize money, whatever. Like if you win something, go and use those internships really wisely, because they will teach you so much about you and what you want to do.
Sounds good. Sid, you want to add something?
I mean, I haven't reached that juncture in my life with the college scene. So I don't think I can give as many insights as HA has. But I mean, the comment on the internship, I think it's so important because through winning the TGCC, I also got 2 other internships. So I got one at Rothschild. It's, completely independent firm in investment banking, and, they don't accept high school students at all. But, through winning TGCC and through, the skills I learned there, and I made like if like, exemplar pitch deck and showing them stuff, and, that interview process. I think that was some skills that you learn and some things you pick up. And I got another consulting internship where I got to one-on-one consult with a slew of schools all over Canada, UAE, and America. So breadth of experience there, because let's be honest, right? Winning the TCC gets your foot in the door. Whether you go in that door and how you use that door that's been opened for you. I feel like I'm using the word door too much, but I'm pretty sure I'm being pretty articulate here. How you use the opportunity is completely up to you. And I think the TGCC and all these global competitions are really good at giving you all the resources you need, after winning or after all the experience you get from, just participating, that, it's almost impossible to mess it up and almost impossible to not make the best use of it. So, I think it's just so important, adds so much value to your life. But, in terms of, I'm assuming that everything that this is saying is kind of links to college. I don't know. I think Eshe is the expert here, but that's kind of my take on it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I was a participant in TGCC last year. I didn't win anything, not even the regionals. Um, but definitely just being a participant has helped me get, just like you, it has helped me get 2 internships as well. Like it's definitely how, the majority of people wouldn't do anything with the experience. So to be, just to participate, you get that sort of brand name, right? You participate in the Tiger Global Case competition, right? Tiger Global Management is a massive investment company. And just having that name behind you, even if you didn't win anything, just like I didn't, you can definitely use that to get places, but that, again, as he said, it's all upon how you use it. So, John, you being a founder of a global competition yourself, how do you get started and being involved in global competitions?
Yeah, and that's a great question, actually, because it's a bit unusual for someone of my background or someone who's in a country tucked in the corner of most maps or sometimes forgotten. And the fact of the matter is that being a New Zealander, you do kind of get that temptation to forget about the rest of the world, right? You're locked in the corner of the globe and you're isolated and forgotten about, and you just enjoy living in New Zealand. But I suppose the ironic thing is that when everyone went into isolation, I got the opportunity to see how open or how many opportunities there are all across the world and on this global scale. And once I realized that there's this massive amount of potential sitting outside of my backyard, not only across the ditch, but all across the globe, I was really inspired by that. And I wanted to develop something to bring that to really anyone, no matter where you were. So I guess that's how I got into global competitions. I just was amazed by how awesome they are when looking at a global scale.
It's amazing. Yeah, that's definitely cool because, living in the Middle East myself is like you're sort of exposed to everything already. So it's definitely interesting to hear from someone who hasn't been exposed to everything, right? Um, I guess, one thing to look at is like the sort of, again, the coming back to the global aspect of competitions is like, how can joining and participating in these competitions help you meet new friends or new people, new mentors even, I guess, yeah.
So I mean, like specific to the TGCC, it just opened a lot of doors into doors again. It just opened a lot of opportunities for me to network. And I just feel like all the people that I rely on or are part of my support network are through these competitions. For example, we got to interact with Julian Robertson, who was the founder of Tiger Global. We got to have a chat with him. I got to have a chat with Jamie Beaton and the team. I mean, great people, all 3 of them. I just think that, first of all, having them as your mentors and people that you can talk to and ask questions to and interact with is just it adds so much value to your life. And then aside from that, it's just the other laymen like myself in the competition who I can interact with, through the TGCC and through webinars like this is how I got most of my recruiting done. And it's how I found all these people available who are willing to help out and who have the skills to help out. So, three things: the scale, the prizes, and the willingness of the participants in such global competitions allows you to build that support network that doesn't really die as you don't interact with them. It's lifelong, life lasting, and it's just going to help you out so much in the future.
Yeah, I think, John and I definitely agree there. Being founders of like global, I guess, organizations ourselves, most of our like people that are working at the organization are all like remote. They're all from all over the world, US, Canada, New Zealand, Middle East, India even. So yeah, definitely participating in like global competitions would help you really meet people from the other end of the world and develop relationships with them that can definitely help you in later stages of your life. Do you think age or experience is like a big determining factor in these competitions?
Not at all. Not in the slightest. I think we were one of the younger participants. Like I was 15 when I signed up for the TGCC. So, in the lower, quartile of the participants for the TGCC, my financial knowledge was near zero. My exposure to financial knowledge was near zero. I just thought investment banking was cool because you earned a lot of money and it sounded cool because Mike Ross did it in Suits. That was the limitation to my knowledge, right? And and like, I mean, maybe like my dad also worked in the industry, but that's about it, right? I had no clue head from tail what consulting was and how it works. But it kind of relates to my previous point is that technical skills can be taught and technical knowledge can be gained if you know what you don't know. And I think TGCC or any sort of global competition where you're kind of out of your depth in terms of your knowledge, it's something that brings value to what you're trying to do. I think the thing that was really important for this competition was critical thinking and those soft skills and how you explain things. And that again only comes with how often you interact with people on a general basis. And I don't think you need experience for that, more so as just understanding and reflecting upon yourself. How can I be as approachable as possible and looking at a problem and kind of breaking it apart into its principal pieces. You find that in the real world in consulting, and this is what I figured out after my 2 or 3 internships this summer. 90% of them are engineers, like no relation to the consulting field, no knowledge of economics, no finance. One guy was a 19-year-old kid who did an engineering competition, finished his degree in 1 year for engineering and had no accounting, no ACCA, no CFA, nothing. But what people in consulting value the most is what like engineers tend to have is look at a problem, break it up into its components, parts, and solve each of them one by one, and then putting it back together. So, in my Rothschild office, at least, I had engineers, I had artists, I had pol sci majors, I had PP&E, that's a common one. I had someone who majored in movement and expression. Like, is that just dance? I don't know. Like, because you find such a diverse set of people, because the core of consulting is you don't need subject specific knowledge. You don't need financial specific knowledge that you learn. What you need to look at is A, be approachable, C, be able to diagnose and solve the problem, and D, explain it in a way that makes sense. Take the judges through you on that journey of here's the final recommendation, here's the issue we found, and here's how we're going to implement it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Even in my consulting internship, like 90% of the people are just engineers, and I'm like, wait, where are all the MBA people? Where are all the business people? You know, so yeah, it's having that exposure to different fields. In my like sort of 6-month internship, I didn't go over like business topics. I didn't go over how to make a cash flow statement. I know I went over like all the different fields like healthcare, education, construction and stuff like that. It's really exposure to those fields that make you more competitive. What would be some of you guys' like number one piece of advice for someone that's interested in joining a global competition like this?
Well, first of all, okay, so this is going to be some wisdom coming from a teenager, which is going to sound really weird, but this is my 2 cents on it. Basically, honestly, you just got to do, if you truly do your best, and doing your best does not mean making no mistakes. You are going to make mistakes. It's normal. Everybody makes mistakes. I made mistakes and everything. So like, do your best and truly want it. Like actually, if you act, it doesn't mean you going around screaming to everyone like, I want to win this competition. No, it's like if you actually really want it, you'll know if you really want something. And you got to do your best. And you just gotta like have the passion for it, like you really want this. And at the end of the day, that will increase your chances of winning it so much. And if you don't, which will happen, like that means I like to think of it as like that's not meant for you. Going on from like Sid's door analogy, if a door is not meant to like open for you, that's like the theme of this webinar, doors. If a door is not like meant to open for you, that's not meant for you. Like that means that later on another door will open. Like I think about it, I've entered so many competitions. I've entered like other essay and writing stuff as well. If I didn't win those, perhaps like if I could go and like change, the outcome of those competitions, would I? No. Because at the end of the day, perhaps if I won those competitions, I would have never entered the Harvard one and won that one. So like you never know what those mistakes are preparing you for. And that just means that's not, I know this is getting really philosophical, but like if that's not meant for you, okay, key idea, if it's not meant for you, it's not meant for you. If you actually want it and you do your best and you get it, that means that was meant for you. Like you were supposed to win that and like you got it. You worked hard for it and you were passionate about it and you got it. Amazing. Like congratulations, you did it. And if you don't, that means the world is preparing you for something else. And all of us are in a path, and we are going to get the wins, but we're going to have like the losses as well. And don't feel bad, oh, I wish I should have won that. No, like rejections are just redirections. Like you are going to go and win something. Like don't worry about it. Other people are meant to go down that route. Like perhaps you'll never know what that would have led you to, but you also like you have this amazing chance and you have these like amazing experiences in life. And don't worry about what you don't win. At the end of the day, doors will open for you. Like Sid loves to say, doors will open for you and everything, will be good. So don't try to like barge open doors that are not meant for you.
Ajay, I think you have to change your major to philosophy.
Philosophy.
I low-key thought about it as well.
No, you should. Maybe even minor in it if you're interested. John, do you have any input in this? Your number
Sure.
one.
Well, I have a need. I feel I have a need to talk about doors in some way, just to make sure the theme keeps going. So really, I guess the thing I always think about when looking at these sort of competitions is what's the worst thing that can happen when when opening that door. So that's the thing, right? Where often these competitions, they're designed for any participant to get something out of it, no matter what that might be, whether that be some cool knowledge, meeting new friends, just being able to develop a network, or even whatever might be related to if you win or do really well in it. But the thing is that almost always it's done in a way which is accessible, particularly when looking at large-scale global competitions. They're made in an environment which is accessible and an environment which is usually pretty low pressure, or not super competitive, which is a nice difference you get to see when looking at your invitational international competitions, where that's massive, massive pressure. So yeah, I guess looking at it and going back to the main idea, what's the worst thing that can happen to you? You lose? Well, who cares? I mean, you have another competition to enter. You had a good time, hopefully, or if you didn't have a good time, you know not to enter that again. And if you do well, you might end up on this panel. So, it's a pretty cool thing it's a pretty cool thing. It's doing a cost-benefit analysis in my limited background in economics. It ends up as a win-win situation.
Yeah,
And that's why there's also people like you, creating more global competitions for the people to join.
Yeah, I mean, like I was thinking about what both of you guys said, and it kind of as a UFC Conor McGregor fan. Okay, I know I'm going to get so much like slack after this.
Oh, you shouldn't have said that. You shouldn't have said that.
But as a Conor McGregor fan, he said something pretty profound, which is, "I never lose. I either win or I learn." And I think that's kind of the central theme, aside from doors, of this kind of webinar, is that there's no loss to you here. You're not losing anything. You're only gaining things as you enter any sort of global competition.
Sorry about that, I was muted. John, you living in the middle of, the corner of the world, why do you think people that are looking at local equivalents of like competitions, why do you think they should enter global ones instead?
Sure. Well, I guess my first question there is that it's difficult to call a global competition and a local competition an equivalent of one another, because when looking at it, it's at a completely different scale, and that's really the main thing which I've constantly brought up throughout this. When looking at your local competition, you really don't have too many opportunities, or even if you do well, I mean, what's next? That you go to states, that you go to nationals, and it's just a big, it's a big process. It's a long process, and really, it's not something massive. You're not part of some massive competition with that. And it comes down to the question of what would you rather do? Would you rather be competing against your neighbor or someone thousands of miles away? Now, to me, what I find so much more interesting is being able to have these sort of international competitions and international discussions. I mean, I live in my hometown, big surprise there, but I'm sick of, talking to, I'm not sick of people, but we have plenty of competitions at the local level. I have my classmates, I have my teachers, I live in my local environment. Once again, what a surprise. But when looking at an international competition and a global competition, it's dealing with a scale that you don't really get to experience that often, and particularly in a way which is accessible. So I guess the reason why you should enter global competitions over local equivalents is that they're just so much larger. They're global instead of, being against your neighbor.
Definitely agree with that. Sid, you want to add something?
I mean, I was just gonna say, I mean, knowing John and his debate skills, I feel bad for his next door neighbor, man. Like that cannot be fun at all.
Yeah, that's definitely true. All right. Um, I guess let's move on to our live Q&A session, as it is the last 20 minutes. Now, if you guys have any more questions, I can see there are a couple of questions here. If you have any more questions, please pop them in right now or upvote current ones so we can start answering them. So I guess first one, this might be a bit more specific to TGCC. What technical skills would be most valuable to a team in order to succeed in a case competition?
You know, I spoke about this before. You don't really need any sort of specific technical skills. It's not really necessary. But I think if you have, kind of the drive and motivation to come in prepared, I would say like accounting is such a big part of everything, accounting and projections. So things like I would say first, make sure you're comfortable with Excel. So what I kind of do nowadays is I just kind of model cash flow statements, income statements, balance sheets on a spreadsheet, try to dynamically connect them to one another. Then I would say, look at things like EBITDA multiple approach for valuation, WACC for valuation, or discounted cash flow. Look at things like return on invested capital. Those are some, like, again, like it's not really things you need to know. It's just, I mean, if you have a head start in these, it's great. It might make it just a bit easier for you, but the TGCC is structured in such a way where technical knowledge is not the most important thing. Like I went in with zero technical knowledge, and if I can win, then someone who has at least some technical knowledge, or someone who has no technical knowledge, has an equal, if not better, chance than I did.
I can see John just confused at all the words being thrown at him. Um, when did you start preparing? I guess is general for all of you.
uh, I mean, for me, I mean, like our team was kind of a bit on the try hard scale of things, because what we did was we started 2 weeks before the competition started, and we said, okay, we have 2 weeks. What we're going to do is we're going to look at the previous case. We're going to make a regional case from last year. Then we're going to, give feedback on it, try to improve it. Then we're going to do a practice global case as well within 48 hours, and then do it again. I feel like the nature of consulting is such that everything keeps evolving. I mean, if you can do that practice before, sure, go ahead, do it. But personally, I don't think that added too much value. I mean, again, like 15-year-olds, we have time to spend, to waste. It was either that or playing, Mortal Kombat or 2K21 on the PS4. So, it's like, what would it have to lose? But if we're being, very kind of concerted about it and very specific about it, I'd say maybe just look at the case before, look at the last year's presentation, last year's case, 2018's case and presentation. Just make sure you know what is expected, look at the rubric, and then, go ahead and start.
Yeah, again, it comes down to the sort of like grit and sheer passion to actually learn, for you to think of those things. That's why, people like you actually win these competitions, right? How much time did you put into the competition, and are there any tips on like how you can balance your time when you're having school also?
Um, so for this is a good question because I feel like that's something that's going to stick with all of us for the rest of our lives. And I think maybe Eche and John can comment on this because my time management skills aren't that great. But again, I had the privilege of being 15, so I could spend a lot of time, on the competition. But I feel like the competition is structured in a way where you don't really need to spend too much time. If you really look at it, it's 7 days and then 48 hours, and with a break in between. So if you kind of think about that, and I mean, again, it's not, if you just put it into perspective, uh, we as high school students probably spend more time than that faffing about. Like it's not that much of time that you're putting aside to think. If it's like, think about it this way: 3 hours every day for 7 days, of which most of it will be just again faffing around with your teammates, or like us watching highlights on a Zoom call, or it would be, and then the 48 hours, or it's actually rubber hits the road there. So I think time management really wasn't a problem just because I had the time. But for those of us who don't, I think setting aside a schedule that says, okay, at this time I'm going to do this, and sticking to that. I use Google Calendars and Notion. But for I don't know what tricks work for you guys. So that's kind of what I use.
Yeah, I mean, it really, like, I agree with Sid a lot there. Like, I was just gonna say the same thing. Like, it doesn't actually take that long. Like, when you realize it's like it's the same with the essay competition. You think that, oh my God, it's gonna take so long. It actually doesn't. Like, we all spend so much time. Like, okay, let me not generalize, but I spend so much time on my phone and like social media and everything. We all do. Like, when you look at it, an hour here and there is actually just not that much time to like spare. Like I was doing my college application thing, so that had ended by the time the essay competition came about. So I had like a bit more time. Yeah, if you're applying for colleges in that season, it's probably not like a good time because I know I was like backed up. But like if it's like if you're just going to school normally, I think you will have the time, and deadlines really help. Being like, okay, so when do I have to submit this by? Okay, by the end of the week. Realistically, let me brainstorm today. And then, like breaking up stuff. So brainstorm today, write the first paragraph and everything. And actually setting yourself a hard deadline works, because I'm not gonna lie, if we just give ourselves like a month, it's not gonna happen. So I started preparing, I'll probably say like 2 weeks before I had the kind of initial idea. And then I wrote it in like a day. When you take a look at it, I wrote it in a day, but I had the idea for like 2 weeks and stuff. And then giving yourself a day to like review what you've done before submitting your final thing is very important, I feel like. But other than that, yeah, it actually doesn't take that long. I feel like if you're doing normal school stuff and not like maybe college apps, I think you'll be fine.
Yeah, I
Sure.
definitely agree with that. Like being aware of like where you spend your time is very important, because like I'm sure most of our phones or laptops have like a screen time thing, and most of you might be surprised if you go on there and see how much time you spend on like social media or Netflix or whatever, because like I was definitely. So just knowing those things, right? So when you know these things and like a global case comp comes up, right? You know that, okay, I need to just cut an hour or two from my phone, or just stop using it for like 3 hours while I focus on this. So really just doing these small little things just helps a lot. John,
And
you had
just
something?
adding on that, I
Yeah.
mean, one thing which I've always found in terms of being able to just find time to do things, because the fact of the matter is that any teenage, well, not any teenager, let's avoid generalization again, but most teenagers, or at least some teenagers, will always say they're busy, right? But the fact of the matter is that if you find something you really enjoy, like for me, it's working on Cosmos, it might be doing work for Tiger Global, interning, whatever that might be. You can really use that as an opportunity to step in as your way to relax or take a break, or as a method of entertainment. So for me, I used to, watch a lot of YouTube, be really involved with TikTok and all that. And then as I realized, hey, I really don't have time to do this, instead of using those platforms, I just started working more on Cosmos, because I found that to just be as entertaining and as satisfying to do. So while you can look at your schedule and it might be completely full, you'll always find that there's opportunities to step it up and replace things which you might enjoy doing even more. And if worse comes to worse, I mean, you can always cut a couple of hours of sleep, but you know, that's probably not a great recommendation.
I mean, when you're in a global case comp and you have 48 hours to solve a case, then probably you need to cut off some sleep. Um, this would be definitely good. This question would be good for John and Sid. Could you share some tips to calm my anxiety and nervousness participating in such big competitions?
Okay, this is a big one. I think with something like consulting, I mean, compared to writing, you have to put yourself out there a bit more because you're there to see people and how they react to you and you're speaking. It's easier to mess up speaking on the spot rather than if you have something to write and look at. So I think, I mean, for me, like I was always introduced to public speaking ever since like I was God, in like year 7 when I started MUN and when I started debate. But I always get nervous before sort of big events. I was nervous before this webinar. I think the big thing is, and this is something that my MUN tutor kind of told me, and it stuck with me throughout. It's the only one who knows you're nervous, or the only one who knows you're wrong is you. No one else knows that. So don't let that change, because let's be honest here, right? Some of us are a bit more nervous than others, and that only comes with experience and exposure. You can't kind of everyone has kind of their pre-game rituals. Like I don't know, like someone like for Kyrie Irving, he just like burns sage around the court. Like I don't know what you guys do, but I think it's just important to make sure you like compose yourself before. It's over Zoom. It's less daunting, I think, than if it's in real life. But just internalize the fact that you're the only one who knows you're nervous. You're the only one who knows that you might be, factually incorrect whenever you say something, or that you stuttered or you messed up a little bit. The only person who knows that is you. When I'm looking at other people's cases, who want to show me their case before entering a case comp, I don't notice a lot of the small things that they say, oh yeah, did you notice this? You notice that? As a judge, you don't really notice that. So just make sure that when you're presenting yourself, you don't reflect how you're feeling inside. And with experience, that feeling will slowly diminish away.
I mean, Sid's really covered the main point there. I guess looking at it, it all surrounds how confident you are, and really, I've found the best way to develop confidence is just exposure and experience. I mean, no one's naturally born to be a great public speaker, right? Well, maybe some, a small minority of people are, but most of the situations are where people are nervous when you have to speak in front of a big group of people. It can be an intimidating situation, but the more and more you do it, the more comfortable you are with it. And it's really a process which helps you step up in it. So I guess my advice there is just set yourself up with opportunities to give yourself exposure speaking to people. Be that person in class who, ask a question about the textbook or, put some effort when you have to do a speech in front of the class, or sign up to your debate club, your MUN club, or anything which just helps you speak to people. And another way, which I've always found to be really helpful, is, get used to introducing yourself, get used to meeting new people and communicating with different groups of people. Because the more and more you expose yourself to that, the more you get used to just communicating about who you are and the ideas you want to get across. So really, it all just comes down to experience.
Yeah, and I think Johnny said something very important about like it doesn't have to be a debate thing that you put yourself. You're just talking to normal people. I'm gonna expose myself a little bit here. When I was in year 7, year 8, I was super into like card tricks, right? I thought I could be the next David Blaine. So I would sit in front of YouTube learning card tricks. And then when I actually got to showing people, I didn't have the guts to show it to anyone more than my parents. Because imagine like you're walking on down the street, you stop someone, and some year 7 kid just shows you some magic tricks. It isn't exactly the best way to start. So what really helped me build my confidence there was I kind of spoke to people who were forced to listen to me and enjoy what I have to say. Like when I was bagging groceries, like for my stuff to take home, I'd just stop by the cash and say, hey, you want to see a magic trick? They can't say no. They're there to like make sure that you feel comfortable. Or like, I would stop a waiter on as they were passing our table and show them a magic trick. And so I think, having conversations with people like, the cashier, just like a thank you, how are you doing today? That sort of stuff. And you're talking to people you don't know as well, who are there to serve you, or like, oh, that sounds so meritocracy, like, sorry, who are there to kind of make sure that you're feeling comfortable. Then you actually expose yourself to, okay, I'm talking to someone who I don't know, and I'm saying that's what's on my mind. So that kind of exposure, I think, was really helpful for me.
Yeah, I mean, just one more thing to add. They covered everything, but like, I remember something like my mom said to me before I had like a interview for my prefectship. So basically, like I was like really stressed out. It was like with the head and like the president of the school and everything. And I was like, oh my God, what if I don't get it and everything, like, like the classic like anxiety stuff. And then she was like, well, at the end of the day, like you can't just be like, oh, what if I don't get it? Like, it's not going to do any good to you. So it's like, oh, people are asking us to carry on with the doors theme. Hold up, I'll insert something here. Basically, it was like, you can't force open a door by asking, like, with your anxiety and being like, thank you, John. It was a very forceful go. Basically, you can't force open a door with your anxiety and everything. You're like, oh my God, what if I don't get it? At the end of the day, like, that's not going to help you during public speaking and everything. And my mom said, you can't change your outcomes being this negative about it. So it's like, at the end of the day, what they'll perceive of you, they will perceive of you. You can't really, affect that. So you might as well go into an experience being like, okay, I'm gonna have fun. This is for me. At the end of the day, we live our lives for us. Again, philosophical, but like we live, you live your life for yourself. So every experience you have, you should be enjoying it. You should try to enjoy it. You're not going into this, like internship, or like you're not presenting a webinar and everything because of somebody, like for the betterment of other people, like for another person to like perceive you as good. You do it because like it's your life. You want to experience it, So you might as well go in and like be like, okay, you know what? It is what it is. Like, I have to do this interview to get something I want. I have to do this public speaking to like win this debate competition. You have to go in and be like, okay, I'm gonna have fun. I'm gonna have to do this, so might as well have fun with it. So I went into that interview and I was like, I was fun. And when you're having fun and when you're happy, that will reflect. You can't just like, close it behind doors. That will reflect to other people and the people around you. And happy ending, I did get my prefect position. So it was like, it's all about energy. And like, even if you don't have it at that moment, I still had my anxieties when I was speaking to these teachers, but I kind of masked it behind, you got to fake it till you make it. Like you can't just like, I'm not going to let my anxieties take over me and like lose me this experience. I might go have fun. I'm just going to have fun. I'm going to be myself. I'm going to like enjoy this whole thing. And that will reflect, and that positivity will reflect. And hopefully, that will be enough to kind of wow the people that I'm presenting to.
I think that's a really great point you brought up about like having fun, because actually the director of this competition told me before the webinar that nervousness and excitement, like when you're nervous and when you're excited, your body releases the same hormones. So whenever you're nervous, just tell yourself like, I'm not nervous, I'm just excited, So once you have that change of mindset, again, philosophical, but once you have that change of mindset, like you start calming down and you start really focusing on what's important rather than what's not important. We've got very little time left, but let's just quickly go over some of the other questions. Sid, this is specifically for you. How did you teach yourself the economic/financial side of the case studies when you had basically no knowledge of it, since previous presentations, it makes up a significant part of it?
So I think one of my teammates kind of deserves a shout out here. I think he's in the call, Harsha. So he kind of, he was kind of the finance guy in our sort of team, right? But I think, closer to the end of the competition, the global round, and more so in my internships, what taught me, like what I used to kind of teach myself the finance skills was I used this, I never did any of their courses, but I read a lot of their articles from the Corporate Finance Institute. That was really useful for me. I took an online course called Financial Markets with Dr. Robert Schiller. He's actually someone who wrote a really interesting paper on how stocks perform during different stages in the market cycle, which is pretty interesting. And I think, just, going consistent with the door theme here, you have to be the one who opens the door. No one can open that door for you. So I think just having the commitment to open that door and go through all the different things is really what makes the large part of it. Again, like this didn't happen overnight. I started doing research for finance since like I was in year 8. Never understood anything. Never understood anything. I'm just looking at the chat here. And I never understood anything, and I didn't really get the idea until like now. And even now I'm learning so many new stuff. So I think that is just having the ability and the passion to open those doors for yourself and submerging yourself in the field. If you're passionate about it, you'll do it on your own. You don't need any sort of external motivation. And I think, was it Elon Musk? He said, if you need inspiration to do something, don't do it, right? You should be
I think he
doing
was talking about entrepreneurship in specific.
Yeah. I mean, this it goes for anything, right? Technical knowledge, entrepreneurship, soft skills. That kind of applies for everything.
Yep, definitely agree with that. Um, Ajay, this is for you. How did you prepare for the essay competition, and for how long have you been honing your skills?
Okay, so like I kind of briefly mentioned the timeline, but basically the majority of the work took place over a day. I kind of like, put it aside a bit. But it's because, well, first of all, the brainstorming thing kind of took a bit because I prepared over like 2 weeks, I could say. The first week, I thought I was going to write about something completely different. And I had a completely, so in the writing competition, you have like themes you choose, and I had a completely different like theme. But then again, that was my first idea. Then I went back and I was like, no, this is not cutting it. No, like this is not going to win me anything. So then I went back and I was like, okay, actually, like, what's, something that is interesting and I can kind of, you know, make into something more different. So I always had like a few ideas about writing, like, I want to write about this, I want to write about that. So then I went back and I was like, So one of the themes was kind of, what was it? It was pick a song quote that you really like and like, and not even a song, just pick a quote and like do whatever you want with it. So then I was like, okay, I have a favorite song. It's like Apocalypse by Cigarettes After Sex. I don't know if you guys know it, but it's amazing. And I was like, okay, like this is my favorite song. I want to do something with this. And it had a specific quote that I was like, okay, this can match with this story idea I have in my head. So then I kind of brought those two like favorite things of mine together and I wrote it. And then I took another day to kind of edit it. And one advice I can give is like go and talk to one of your friends. So this other friend I entered the competition with, I sent my essay to her, she sent hers to me, and we just kind of did like feedback on it, which was really helpful for me. And then I submitted it. And the one thing about these competitions I feel like is conciseness. So with the essay competition, for example, it was like we had 500-word limit on the regional round. That's nothing when you're writing a story, yeah. So I had to kind of like force myself to be like, okay, like I love description. Like I can go on about a scene when I'm writing, but I was like, okay, like I have 500 words. There's no room for me to describe the color of this wall with like 5 words. Like I can just say red. There's no need to go like it's fuchsia with shades of pomegranate. No, there's no need, just red. So it had to like, I kind of had to, reflect on myself and be like, okay, Ajay, you have to cut into this action because this is not gonna like happen. So you kind of have to, in these competitions, you have to like streamline yourself and be like, no, what I write is perfect, or how like the way I present is perfect. No, it's not. Like, be critical and force yourself to kind of fit into the like competition's mold, I would say. And yeah, get to the action, cut to the chase, be concise and be effective.
Yeah, I think, something you just mentioned before and Sid mentioned is like really cooperation is definitely very important. Finding like partners that complement your skills. Like, Sid wasn't that, like experienced in finance, so one of his teammates was. And, Ajay sent her essay to her friend and her friend sent it. So really cooperation is definitely a big part of this. And I think that's a wrap for today. I hope you guys had a massive sort of, I hope you guys got value from this competition, right? And from this webinar. Huge thank you to all of our panelists, and thank you for taking the time for, sharing your experiences and insights with the audience today. We're certain this was super helpful. And just to, clarify again, the recording of this webinar will be sent to all registrants through email. And so please check out, your email for if you want to review it, or maybe if you missed something. So what's next? Make sure you're following the TGCC Instagram handle for future webinars and updates on TGCC. It is at Global Case Comp on Instagram. Next week, TGCC is hosting another global webinar, and this will be on consulting and investing. So if you're curious on being perhaps an investment banker or a consultant at some big company, then you should join this expert panel to explore these careers and listen to these professionals with years and years of experience. And also, let's not forget the most important thing, register for the largest global case competition right now. You have the QR code right there. Pick up your phone, scan it right now, and go register. Get your teammates and click register right now. Registrations are closing on Tuesday, August 3rd. There will be no exceptions. This is the last time you can, register. 11:59 p.m. New York time. That's the last time you can register. You can register with 2 to 4 people, 2 to 4 students with your team. You can go to the TGCC website, or as you can see, the QR code is right in front of you. So yeah, I guess that is it for the TGCC 2021 global webinar, the first webinar. TGCC is very delightful and would like to thank the sponsors and partners for making this possible. Our principal partner, Tiger Global Management, global partner M&G Investments, and official sponsor PwC, and obviously it is powered by Crimson Education. See you all at TGCC 2021, and thank you for joining.